Hello, folks. Ken Hovind here. Question answer time. I am so sorry. I'm way behind. It is February 20th, 2017. Just got off the four-wheeler, gave another tour of Dinosaur Adventureland. Come on down. We'll let you take you around here. I took the tour of Dinosaur Adventureland. We are nowhere near done, but we're going to try frantically to get done by April 21st and have sort of a mini grand opening, whether we're done or not. Actually, we're never going to be done. It'd be like Disneyland. Never. Woo. Pure lime water. Okay. Anyway, questions. I'm sorry some of you have been waiting for so long to get questions answered you sent in. So let me try to get through a few real quick. Here's one from James from February 6th. Not too old. Okay. He says, if Noah and his sons were giants, wouldn't that make them Nephilim? In order to describe anything as a giant, wouldn't the describer have to not be a giant? What you're referring to, James, is Genesis chapter 6 in the Bible, which is just before the flood came in the days of Noah. Back here on the chart, here's the creation, 4000 BC, plus or minus 50 years, maybe, I don't know. And then the flood in the days of Noah. Before that, the people lived to be 900 years old. We know that from Genesis chapter 5. And it says in Genesis chapter 6, there were giants in the earth in those days. And also after that, when the sons of men saw the daughters of women, that they were daughters of men, when the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, they took them wives of all which they chose. Anyway, many people use the Hebrew word there, Nephilim, which is not used in the King James Bible, but that is apparently the Hebrew word used for the giants. I don't have the answer to the question. It looks like there was some gigantic race of people, maybe half human, half demon, half human, half angel. There's just, to me, there's not enough scripture to be dogmatic. So I don't know what the Nephilim were. There's books written on it by people who are positive they know what it is. Okay, well, read their book and see what you think. But I don't know if Noah was a giant. Maybe, if they're living to be 900 years old and probably growing and maturing till they're 70 or 80 or 90 when they finally got married. It may be they were all, 10 feet tall back before the flood came. And it may be that the people looking in the ground for bones are finding giant human bones and not recognizing them as human. They're calling them something else, from these people that drowned in the flood. Now, I would say that probably there are fewer human bones to be found in the fossil record than animal bones for multiple reasons. One, there were fewer humans. When God first made the world and the creation back here, it was full of plants, full of animals, and only 2 people. 1,600 years later, it would still be full of animals and still be full of plants and still not be full of people. I mean, it might have been a few million. I don't know how many drowned in the flood. It'd be just a guess on anybody's part. But also, humans are smarter than animals. Well, some humans and some animals. And so they would probably avoid drowning till the last minute. And therefore, they end up laying on top instead of buried in the sediment layers. So less likely to fossilize at all. That wasn't the question, but I hope that helps answer about the Nephilim. Noah may or may not have been a giant. He wasn't one of the Nephilim because those apparently were a mixed breed of half human, half demon, I guess. It says the sons of God saw the daughters of men. So the assumption is these sons of God are the angels. Sons of God are mentioned in the Old Testament, I think, 6 times and 5 times in the New Testament, or maybe vice versa. If you get my video series, number 6 or number 7, so I got one here somewhere. My seminar series is 18 hours long, and we're doing a new series, started last night, XL Baptist Church. We taped one session last night. It's going to cover some of the same material, updated, upgraded, but including a lot of new stuff. We have a whole new series on what on earth is about to happen. Whoa, based on my book and on the chart behind me here. So we're covering part 1. How old is the earth? What was the creation like? Why did they live to be 900? That'll all be on there. Okay, this question from Dmitro, D-M-Y-T-R-O. D-M-Y, I hope I pronounced that right. Dmitro. Hello, every time I start studying the book of Genesis, this provokes a lot of questions and sometimes makes me close the book. Oh, you don't do that. You skip the parts you don't understand and keep going. And later you come back to the parts you don't understand. It's like a good person taking an SAT test, any kind of test. If there's 100 questions, don't waste a lot of time on the 2 you don't know. Get through the test and go back, put a check mark, go back and do those later. Because if you run out of time and there were still 20 more you could have answered correctly, well, you just lowered your score. But no, do all you can and then go back and do what you can't or can't do quickly. That's test taking 101 from Hovind here. Okay, Dmitro. I start studying the book, I close it. So my question is about different nations and their interrelations. The book of Genesis seems pretty much to be a collection of Jewish beliefs. God says the Jews are his chosen people. What about the non-Jews? I do understand that the New Testament offers a way for everyone to be saved. Well, Demetrio, everyone could be saved all through history. There's never been a time when God rejected anyone. Anyone could have been saved at any time, Jews and Gentiles alike. What happened shortly after the flood, God called a guy named Abram and changed his name to Abraham. He's right here, about 2000 BC, before Christ. And he called him to leave Ur of the Chaldees, which today is the country of Kuwait, and come to the promised land, this land that today is the land of Israel. And he said, Abram, I'm going to do three things with you. Your children, your seed, you're going to bring the world the Messiah. And sure enough, Jesus came through the seed of Abraham. He was a Jew. And you're going to bring the world my word. And just about the whole Bible is written by a Jew. And you're going to be a model nation of how things ought to be done. So at this point, 250 years or so after the flood, God decided, instead of working with all of the people coming off of Noah and his family, just to narrow it down to one tribe, Abram. He could have chosen the Norwegians or the Apache Indians, or he could have chosen whoever he wanted, but he chose the Jews. Just to be a model. And I'm glad it wasn't the Norwegians, because God's been generally pretty hard on his people when they disobey, and they have spent most of their time disobeying rather than obeying. So the reason God chose just one nation, I guess, to be a model is like all teachers do today. They give a sample problem of, how to do, the quadratic equation or something, and here's a sample, do a couple samples, and now you get the concept, and you can apply that to all of the problems. We can take the laws and the advice and admonitions God gave his people, the Jews, and apply it to all situations. I don't know of any situation that just doesn't work with that. So you're right. After Genesis chapter 12, when God called Abram and changed his name to Abraham later, the book is pretty much about the Jews. And that's correct. Like I said, it could have been the Apache Indians or the Icelanders, whoever he wanted. But it's not because God had a different method of salvation. Salvation has always and only ever been by grace through faith. You have to trust the Lord to save you. And the Gentiles could always do that. Next question from Eric. If you look at the theory of evolution as a whole, with the 5 false parts of evolution you have mentioned in your seminar, is the theory of evolution from a science standpoint or a textbook viewpoint a fairly new idea that didn't come around till 1700? What I do in my seminar, Eric, and for those that are listening here, I say that the word evolution has 6 different meanings to it. Just watch my video number 4. I think it's critical that you get that point. Even on video number 1, DVD 1, called the Age of the Earth seminar, I go through the 6 meanings of the word evolution because it's essential to get clear exactly what you're talking about. The first 5 meanings are purely religion. People believe in them. They are not part of science. Number 6, microevolution, is indeed scientific. It's a bad name. We shouldn't call it microevolution, but they do. But that's science. Dogs and wolves probably had a common ancestor. That does not mean dogs and bananas had a common ancestor. So your question is, were those first 5 false parts ever taught before the 1700s? And oh, yes, they were. Aristotle taught a form of evolution clear back in whatever it was, 400 BC, or whenever Aristotle lived. So there have always been people teaching something like this, anyway, to avoid giving God the glory for what he did. It's pretty sad, pretty stupid, in my opinion, and not going to be good from Judgment Day, but that's okay. Testimony file. I take these cold turkey. I don't know what this is. 11 years ago, I was a fanatical drug user and being raised in a secular household, attending the Dutch public schools, a believer in evolution. One day, I ended up in a Christian rehab where I acted as the arrogant fool I was back then. Being there meant you had to get a job training, and being lazy and in love with the girl who worked there, I chose the Christian bookstore that was part of this particular organization as my project, but refused to do anything but make out with said girl in the bookstore basement. This got boring quickly. Making out got boring. Never mind. But my stubbornness prohibited me from doing any actual work. I'm 64 and not boring yet. So having spent a considerable amount of time in police cells and prisons, I knew the Bible better than most preachers, and at that time I didn't believe a word in it. And most of the other books there were these fluffy self-help books in which I didn't take to at all. So I started watching DVDs to pass the time. The first one I picked was the one that looked the most ridiculous to me at the time. It was Your Creation series. I think it was called Dinosaurs in the Bible. I started watching, slumped in my chair, ready for a laugh about these stupid creationists whom I had never heard, only heard of. Just to let you know who was the stupid one back then. I watched it non-stop, and it brought so many things into question. It forced me to do more research, and this ended up convincing me not only that evolution is absolute BS, but much more important, it convinced me that Jesus was the Son of God who suffered and died for my sins, my countless sins, and was resurrected after 3 days. You have absolutely changed my life. The eternal one, I mean. I'm still no choir boy, but I know I'm a new man now through the grace of our Lord, and it was your DVD that gave this fool the push he needed 11.5 years ago. So I just got the urge to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You're doing great work. You changed my life. Thank you, Mr. Hovind, from Simon in Holland. Well, thank you, Simon. Appreciate that. Spread it around. Tell somebody else about it. Okay, this paperclip tells me it's an entire new section of questions on different topics, so we'll quit right there and post this. Sorry, I'm going to try to get more questions in. We're working like mad on here, Dinosaur Adventureland, got lots to do, and redoing all kinds of video series. And my wife Mary's video series on vaccines is now done and being published, being printed and packaged right now as I speak. That is incredible. If you have anybody considering getting vaccinated for anything, you might want to watch that first and understand what you're getting in for. Call drdino.com, our website. Go to Dr. Dino or go call 855-BIG-DINO and get a hold of the $60 for the whole 6 DVD series on the dangers of vaccines. And we'll get ours out here soon. If you want to get our seminar series on creation, call 855-BIG-DINO, and we'll send they're $50 for the whole 18-hour seminar. We'll get that off to you right away. Okay, gotta go. Thank you. Bye.